Look, I talk about this show all the time because it's not just a good show. It's a show on Stars. Stars Kelsey Grammer. But it's because of this line. And they've said it many times in that show, and every time they say it, it's like a gut punch to me. The donors say, we want a new young face because we'd like change on the outside, continuity on the inside. So there's a young politician, not Kelsey Grammer, another one in the show, and he comes in and, oh, change and hope. And it's not that obvious. They're more subtle than that, right? But that's what and he's got new ideas. And he goes and strikes the same exact deal with the donors because behind the scenes, if you have the money, you win, right? And so that's what we get. And that's the drug that we're fed. Change on the outside is the drug. It's on purpose so that people go, it's okay. It's okay. Look, you got change. Ha ha, no you didn't. It got worse. So, let me depress you just a little longer, then I'll get to the hope, okay? 22,000%. What is that? In 2004, there was a tax holiday. It was a law that, of course, the Republicans pushed for, and of course, the Democrats said, oh, you twisted my arm. Okay, fine, you win. They said, we're going to repatriate the money abroad. All these corporations have billions, trillions abroad. And they said, okay, we don't want to pay the 35%. That's the corporate tax rate. We want to bring it back into the country. If we bring it back, we've got to pay 35. No, we're going to keep it abroad. But that's okay. We're going to bribe a bunch of politicians, and they're going to pass a law saying, oh, if you bring the money back in, you only pay 5%. Now, how many of you in this room pay 5% tax? I don't pay 5% tax. Who pays 5% tax? Only the richest corporations in the world. So when they put money in, and they did an analysis, brilliant analysis of this, how much money did they spend lobbying and campaign contributions, and how much money did they make in that difference between 35% and 5% because of that tax holiday law that was passed? They got a 22,000% rate of return on their investment. Buying a U.S. politician is the best investment in the country. So if you want to sell your products or you want to make money, don't worry about making a good product. Don't worry about beating the other guy. All you got to do is go buy a congressman, go buy a senator. You're going to get a 22,000% rate of return. In business, that is inconceivable unless you've bought the government. And that's exactly what they've done. All right, big oil. I'll go through this fast because you guys get it now. $1.2 billion on lobbying, $43.6 billion in subsidies. That sounds like a pretty good deal, right? If you have $1.2 billion, would you spend it to get $43.6 billion in return? Of course you would. Drilling in sensitive ecosystems is thrown in, and socialized externalities, which is, oh, if we spill it, that's your problem, not my problem. All right, so now you say, well, look, what can we do? We've been told that liberals suck. We can't get anything done. We're weak, right? Oh, liberals are pushovers. They're weak. Come on. You can't do anything with them. They're disorganized. It's like herding cats. So obviously you're ineffective. You can't do anything, right? That's interesting. What is this? Consumer protections. Look at this list. National Traffic and Motor Vehicle Safety Act. Oh, that was passed by liberals during a Republican president. But that Republican president, he was probably a liberal, right? Richard Nixon. Okay. Occupational Safety and Health Act. Consumer Products Safety Act. Freedom of Information Act. The Environmental Protection Agency. Richard Nixon started the EPA. Why? Because he wanted to? No. He passed all these laws because he had to. Because liberals were so strong, so overwhelming, so organized that he felt he didn't have a choice. The guy who thought, I don't give a damn about any of the rules or the laws, I'll break into the Watergate, I'll try to spy in on my opponents, I'll do all the dirty tricks, thought, well, the liberals are so strong I can't fight them. And he passed all these laws. Okay, so between 1930 and 1978, when we had Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, the Great Society, and then all the laws in the 1970s. Liberals were strong, effective, invincible. Raiders, Naders, I don't know how many of you remember that. Ralph Nader, before he became the guy who cost us the 2000 election, ran roughshod in the 1970s. Here's a progressive guy who today would be called radical's radical. Came in and said, I'm going to pass these laws. Seatbelts, you're going to need seatbelts. The car companies are like, are you nuts? It's going to cost us millions of dollars. Hell no. And he beat them with a stick. Okay? Why? Invincible. They tell you liberals are weak. Bullshit. From 1930 to 1978, we ran this country, and by the way, unparalleled economic growth, unparalleled job growth. Number one in the world, the powerhouse of the world. We built the greatest middle class known to man. That's what liberals and progressives did. So what changed? What happened in 1978? So I didn't know this. So, you know, and I'm lucky I have a talk show. I have all these guests. I ask them questions to try to find out. So I'm talking to Ralph Nader one day, and he said it all changed in 1978. That's the first time I had heard the specific date of 1978. I said, Jesus Christ, Ralph, what happened? Right? And he said, Tony Coelho happened. I said, who the hell's Tony Coelho? It turns out he's a Democratic congressman. And Ralph explained the Republicans had started taking corporate money. Now, they always took some sort of corporate money, but the laws were different back then, okay? But the laws had changed, as I'm about to explain to you. And Tony Coelho came to the rest of the Democrats and said, hey, you know, we can also take corporate money. It's okay. We'll be good liberals anyway. We'll be good progressives anyway. Let's just take the corporate money and see how it turns out. Well, let me show you how it turned out. Right around 1978, the charts diverge. So the middle class, the bottom fifth, stagnates. The middle fifth, stagnates. The highest fifth goes up 95%. So if you're in the highest fifth, you're doing damn good, right? Top 1%, 281% increase in their after-tax income. You see that chart? That's what happened after 1978. Wait, there's more. This is the share of the top, share of the income for the top percentile, okay? So this is all compared to one another, right? So and what's amazing, now you might be used to the end of that chart where the top 1% takes off and they have a huge percentage of the income, right? But are you used to that period right there from about, 1940 or so to 1978? That part is the part where we were all even. We were equal. Everybody was growing. It's not like the rich weren't growing. It's not like the middle class wasn't growing. We were all growing. We were doing great. And we had equality of opportunity. And then what happened? They changed the laws in 1978. The top 1% takes off like a rocket and leaves us behind. So, what happened? I don't know how many of you have heard of this. It's called the Powell Memo. Lewis Powell was a lawyer, and he wrote a memo for the Chamber of Commerce. And he said, hey, you know what? We're having trouble reaching the politicians as well as we would like. Part of the problem is the laws. I have a brilliant idea. We should target the Supreme Court. Because if the Supreme Court would rule our way, then we will be able to funnel the money to the politicians easier. Okay? The problem is right now there's campaign finance laws. We can't give the politicians money. We just can't do it. Supreme Court won't let us. So let's go buy the Supreme Court. Richard Nixon took Lewis Powell and put him on the Supreme Court. He's like, oh, that's a brilliant memo. Great idea on buying the Supreme Court. You're in. He is the deciding vote in Buckley v. Vallejo in 1976. Deciding vote. That's where they decide money equals speech. So, First Amendment rights, you got money, you can spend as much as you like. Now, it doesn't apply to corporations yet. It just applies to people, actual human beings. 1978, the case that very little people talk about, but the most important one. First National Bank of Boston versus Bilotti. Corporations are people, and hence they have First Amendment rights. Corporations being people was decided over 100 years ago. It wasn't really decided by the Supreme Court. Al Gore talked about this last week on air. It was actually a clerk of the court who actually used to work for the railroad companies who had brought the case. They fixed it. But it didn't really matter that much because it didn't really apply to our politics. But in Bilotti, they said since corporations are human beings, which every time I say it, it seems like, how could anybody possibly believe that? They have First Amendment rights, hence they can spend money in politics. Now later, Citizens United would just take the lid off. You know, they'd take Bilotti and put it on steroids and said, unlimited money in politics. But Citizens United was just the end. It wasn't the beginning. This is the beginning, where they say, it's okay, spend money in politics. And then the corporate money starts to flood in. It floods in every way imaginable. Ads, contributions, lobbying. You know what? Orrin Hatch's son, a lobbyist, makes, I think last time I read, about $150,000 a year. Norm Coleman's wife gets a job, etc. The money just starts pouring in from everywhere because money is now speech and corporations can spend it on politicians. What happens? Here we go again. 1978, the charts diverge. Average hourly wage, stagnating. Average hourly compensation, stagnating. But wait a minute, look at that. Productivity is soaring throughout that time period. Your compensation didn't stagnate because you weren't productive. You were enormously productive, except you didn't get the reward for it. You didn't get the income. You didn't get the benefit of your hard work. Productivity soared. And where did it go? It went back to the top 1% because they fixed the laws. And they said, you know what? We are going to put money in these politicians' hands, and that extra productivity, you earned it, you worked for it, who cares? I'm taking it. I'm taking it. So here's the solution. We fight fire with fire. Now, according to Citizens United, according to all these decisions I talked to you about, we can spend unlimited money in politics. That means it's not just them that could do it, we can do it too. So, we can fight money with money. Now, first thing I would think if somebody was telling me this, how the hell are we going to compete? These corporations are gigantic. They have an unlimited amount of money. There's no way we could raise enough money to compete with them. But here's the beauty of it. We don't have to compete with them on every issue. If you disperse your money to environmental issues, war issues, oil issues, pharmaceutical issues, etc., you will get creamed. You will get destroyed. But if you concentrate all of your money, as these two groups have, you can achieve unparalleled success. Now, I point these guys out because Ari Berman did a terrific article in The Nation a long time ago. We had him on the show. And he had looked into why is AIPAC and the NRA so successful. So the first thing that you would think of is they've got more money than the other lobbies. And as Ari immediately found out, that's not the case. These guys seem all-powerful in Washington, but the reality is they actually don't have that much more money. So how'd they do it? If you cross the NRA or AIPAC, they come to get you. They say, we're going to put your head on a stick. We're going to take all our money, and we're going to make sure you never return to Congress. And once they put 1, 2, 3 heads on a stick, every politician was scared to death of them. So they say, oh, wait. Come again on guns? Say that again? Oh, you're against guns? All right, all right, no, it's no big deal. It's just you'll find other lines of work. They take all their money, they pour it into certain races, and they send a message. Now, the great news is if they can do it, we can do it. But our one issue is to take money out of politics. Now, especially on a state-by-state level, do you know how much money it takes to win a state race in Massachusetts? You know, all these numbers are thrown out, millions, billions, etc. 40,000. The average winning race for the House of Representatives in Massachusetts is 40,000. Okay? And if we went around state by state and said, hey, listen, I got news for you. If you don't vote our way, you can go find other work, okay? And they say, oh, but that's not fair. Why are you looking at me in Montana? Why aren't you looking at the guy in Wyoming? Why aren't you looking at Bob? Bob has the same voting record. They say, that's a sad day for you, isn't it? Okay, we're not looking at Bob, and we're not looking at Wyoming. We're looking at your ass. And you're going to vote our way, or you are done, son. You pack your bags, and I don't care if I don't do anything else with my life, but I'm going to make sure you are eliminated. Okay, you do that once, you'll scare the shit out of them. You do that twice, you've got everybody's attention. You do it 3 times, all of a sudden they say, what? I hate money in politics. Money in politics? I'm on the phone 4 or 5 hours a day trying to raise money. I hate that. Yeah, of course I'm on your side. Just whatever you do, don't hit me. Okay? So, that's called, you know who that is? That's my friend Achilles. And that's his heel right there. Okay? That's their Achilles heel. We can use the same exact tactic that they use against us, against them. Now, they can't stop us. What are they going to do? Say, oh, no, you're not allowed to spend money on that? Well, too bad. Supreme Court's on our side. Take it out with Lewis Powell. So, that brings us to Wolf PAC. That is the whole point of Wolf PAC, to have a super PAC that fights back, that says, we've had enough of you guys coming for us, taking our wages, passing laws against us, forcing us to pay $3.7 billion extra to the pharmaceutical companies, taking our tax money and giving it to the oil companies. We've had enough. There's a new sheriff in town. Now we're coming for you. Now, I have this picture in here of one of the first, it's not my living room. You know, we started the show in the living room. But this was the really small radio office right after that. That's me. I don't know if any of you remember Jill Pike, one of our former co-hosts, and J.R. Jackson, a young intern at the time from USC, okay? Much older now. I show you this picture because when we were in that room, and by the way, that chair I'm sitting in, we literally found it on the side of the road, okay? They told us that our dream was not doable. The same exact thing they tell us every day now with Wolf PAC. Oh, you're crazy. That's not doable. And at the time, we had, miraculously raised $25,000, and we spent it mostly on radio equipment. Mics, the headsets, the ISDN line, which cost us the most amount of money, a mixer, etc., right? They're like, how the hell are you going to do a show on $25,000? I mean, if there was, at the time, if you raised money for a venture, a media venture, you can go to VCs, et cetera. But, if you didn't raise $1 million, they'd laugh you out of the room. There's no way you can do anything without $1 million. But realistically, you got to raise $2 million, $5 million. I said, no. We're actually going to have the largest show. They said, you're going to have the largest show with $25,000. I said, yeah, that's what we're going to do. They said, come on, get out of here. That's not doable. So, impossible, undoable, unrealistic. Where are we now? 750 million views. Actually, I just checked today, 796 million views. 30 million views a month, except I just checked today, it's actually 32 million views a month now. Over 1 million views on YouTube alone. Doesn't count our website, doesn't count the TV show, doesn't count everywhere else we're on. Over 1 million views a day on YouTube alone. That is larger than almost any cable show in the country. Okay? Rachel Maddow does a terrific show. I love her. She's on MSNBC. Okay? I know she's on it, but I love her. Okay? She gets about 1 million on a good day. Okay? Oftentimes less, sometimes on a really good day a little more. Okay? How in the world is sitting in that tiny little room with only $25,000, most of which was immediately spent on the equipment, could we imagine that we could get 1 million views a day, larger than the largest show on MSNBC, which is now the second biggest cable news show in the country? How in the world could you do that? Because we had a plan, we believed, and we stayed together. You see JR there? Still with us. Jesus, been with us for over 10 years. Dave Kohler, 10 years. Ben Mankiewicz, 10 years. Michael Schur, 10 years. We stayed together, we fought together, and we believed. The number one thing you need is the belief that you can do it. If you have that, the amazing thing is, it turns out you can do it. So, we're now the #1 online news show in the world.